Boom. Boo. Ah. Let's try to get that settled. All right. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of I Am I. My name is Joshua Ansley, and today I'm going to talk about the Gunas. Not the Goonies, the Gunas. And, you Guna! Right? So, great movie, but we're going to talk about the Gunas today. The Gunas are basically a modality of understanding all of creation. It's basically, there's three Gunas, right? And they are what make up all of this prakriti, of this nature, everything that we see, everything that we experience, everything that we are. Just everything, right, is constituted of these three Gunas, right? And they are tamas, rajas, and sattva. Basically, they parallel creation, maintenance, and destruction, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, right? And there's really a balance between all of them, right? But we want, as in terms of awakening, we want to be moving towards a sattvic state, and that takes effort, right? So tamas is a state of inertia, right? That law of inertia, that anything that is, I think it's Newton's first law, is that the emotion, an object is in stillness is going to stay in stillness. An object in motion will stay in motion, right? And that's more of a kinetic energy thing. But when you have that inertia, the idea of the potential within that, right? So that potential energy is really defined as an object, the energy that an object has as a result of its relationship to other objects, or to stresses within itself, or to its electric charge and other things like that, right? So if we take stresses within itself, right? The tamas is that inertia, but it has this potential energy within it, right? And if we can enact that potential energy and move that into a rajasic state, we move that inertia, that ignorance, that lethargy into a rajasic space where everything is burned up in the activity. Now, most of the world is actually in a rajasic state, right? Most of human beings are very dominant in rajas. It's a space of self desire and drive and everything. So the world is, in a corporate world, and everything is about getting for ourselves and accomplishing and achieving, and it seems like great things to accomplish and to achieve, right? But it's really what our motivation is behind that as well. So what sort of action are we taking? Is a rajasic action is very much out for ourselves, and it's not, there's no judgment in any of this, whether it be tamasic, rajasic, or sattvic. There is no judgment, but it's just an understanding of how it works, right? And then the rajas is burning everything up, right? And as that burns everything up, we move towards a space of sattva, that peace and serenity, right? But we're not just in a state of doing nothing. There's still rajasic and tamasic, let's say, sattvic movement. So from that space of sattvic movement, it's that space of the actionless action that the Bhagavad Gita talks about, where our body and our minds will take action, but we stay in that place of stillness, really. Right? And that's actually really what we're trying to work towards, is getting past all of the gunas into a trans-sattvic space, right? Into that purusha, outside of prakriti. And again, it's not to shun prakriti or anything, but it's about to contact that space behind the underlying reality underneath all of it, right? So our minds, our bodies, all of that is prakriti. It's all energy. It all has motion. It all is creation, right? It all is nature, right? But we're moving to that space that is outside all of that. So we need to enact effort in order to move to that space, to move from that indolence and that laziness and that ignorance, right? So let's say we talk about waking up. When you wake up in the morning, right? It's like the first thing you do, you wake up. I know myself, I'm not like springing out of bed, right? If I'm springing out of bed, that would probably be rajasic anyway. From a sattvic state, it might be a little bit more of like a peaceful, when you have, if it's like, if you're going to Wally World today, right? And you wake up and you're going to Wally World, you're going to wake up and you'll be like, we're fucking going to Wally World, yeah, right? But if you're really like, know that from a state of being in peace and serenity, that we really don't get our state of being happy from going to Wally World, right? We are happy already, and then we engage and take action and go to Wally World and enjoy it from a space of detachment. We can actually enjoy it more from a space of detachment, because what happens if you get to Wally World and that motherfucker's closed? We all know what happens, right? And so it's not based on that. So when we wake up in the morning, if we're really tamasic and we don't have anything going, we don't want to do anything, we don't even want to get up, we're not even happy, we're depressed about, even going to Wally World, or we have that rajasic state of motion and action and boom, let's go, or we come from a real serene, steady place of that sattvic action, right? So we want to be moving with effort from that, because if we stay in that tamasic place, we're never going to do anything. It's that we need that effort. We need to take that inertia, use the potential energy, and transform it into the kinetic energy of the rajas to actually create something, to move, to take action. This is the way trauma moves out of the body, right? So as we release trauma, we move back into a more sattvic state, because we start with repression. It's holding everything in. It's those stresses within will boil up within, because we don't want to actually do anything. That can turn into depression, that can turn into real heaviness and ignorance and whatever. And when that then finally comes out, it moves out, we go take a yoga class, a hatha yoga or something like that, we move, it moves open into that rajasic space, and it flows everything out. We can emotionally release everything and come back into a more peaceful sattvic state. One of the best descriptions I've heard of it was Blonde Stormtrooper on Instagram, or Unicorn Apothecary Yoga, where she was talking about sex, right? So the tamasic sex would just be like that fucking, you don't even want to fucking be doing this. This is like boring and miserable. You're just not connected at all. This fucking sucks. You don't have energy. You got a fucking headache, and you don't even like this person. You don't know why you're still doing it with this person at all. It's like the same goddamn shit all the time. There's nothing in that. That's all. Like, you don't even want to do this, and just pushing it away and rejection and blah, right? That would be tamasic sex. And then rajasic sex would just be fucking, man, flipping it around, tossing it around up against the wall, bam, slapping it, going at it, doing it, tossing it, throwing it, slam it down, boom, all over. You know what I'm saying? That would be a real rajasic sex. And then sattvic would be basically a real sort of tantric connection, a real beauty of making love, of connecting. Of course, it'd be a little, and again, really you're mixing all three of it in, right? So anyway, you're going to get some rajas in there a little bit, because you're moving as it is, right? But even if we get into this maybe another time, we talk about the stillness within making love in that sense, and when you're actually just holding, and when you're basically moving towards barely any movement, like that sort of space of making love, of true connection, of barely even moving, becoming one in that space, that is some really, really sattvic sex, right? So the interesting thing is that sattva and tamas can in some ways, not really, but in some ways appear similar, because they are both not necessarily moving. Now this is all what modality we're talking about it, right? Because if we're talking about movement itself, can have a tamasic, rajasic, or sattvic quality, right? But just the idea, the concept of a whole is that tamasic is, indolent and lazy and not moving. It's inert, right? As opposed to, then you have the rajas, all the motion, but then there's a stillness that happens, but there's an awake and aware stillness that happens here. Right? So we could have three people sitting there and meditating, and they could all be in completely three different styles. You could be a predominantly tamasic meditator, where you're sitting there and you're not even want to fucking do anything. You're not really engaging with it at all, and you're not, your lower back hurts, and you're just like, oh, and he's like, this fucking sucks, and they're just sitting there, and they could look the same as then a rajasic person could be meditating, and their mind is fucking all over the place. They're just like, oh my God, what am I supposed to do this morning? And I really should get back home. Why am I even here? I shouldn't be doing this, and I can't believe she said that to me, and that really fucking hurt, and blah blah blah, blah, and all this kind of shit. And that is a rajasic meditator. And then you have somebody that's really gotten down into that sattvic space of that stillness and that ease, right? Now the rajasic person is probably going to be moving a lot in their meditation. So, but the tamasic and the sattvic might appear similar, although maybe this person would be laying down. Maybe the tamas would be laying down, right? So, but the important thing to recognize is that they can appear similar, because they're both not necessarily have this kinetic energy of the rajas, right? But they are completely different. that the tamas and the sattvas, and we cannot skip over the rajas, and that is an important aspect, right? If we're moving in this direction, because again, there's really a balance between all of them, because tamas is a space of obstacles, and those obstacles can actually really help. That inertia can help press up again that potential energy into rajas and help that blow open and get everything out so it can come down into that sattvic space. So they're all equally important. That's why there is no judgment on them. But in terms of awakening, in terms of our momentum, where we want to really be working towards is moving towards that sattvic space. So it takes effort to move from that tamasic into the rajasic, and then it takes a sense of effort, of sattvic effort, of ease and letting go, which is still effort, but not to push and fight in that rajasic space. Like, there's so many of us on this fucking path that are really doing it, and there's like perfectionism in our lives, right? That is destroying us because we have to do, I mean, this kills me. I have 17 million things going on that you guys have no fucking even clue about. Writing fucking books, productions, fucking this and that, and all kinds of stuff, and I mean, it's insane the amount of stuff that I do. And like I said, it's really all about trying to make stuff happen and really, you know, like working on a new record and doing all this kind of stuff and a new project with the Kirtan band. And when you do all that, I was like, wait a minute, why am I even doing this? Why do I even do this fucking vlog, right? And it's a sense of really looking at if that perfectionism is just driving us, and we're trying to strive for everything and trying to strive for approval and trying to get something and get something for myself. Am I just trying to get something for myself? And really, when I move into that space of giving, because that space of that rajasic space is really self-centered and self-oriented, which again, no judgment. But when we move into that space beyond self, then we can learn to give and open up and soften, in effort into softening. So it's strong but gentle into that sattvic space, right? And it's not lethargic, it's not indolent. It is nice and easy and peaceful and serene. And then we move into that trans-sattvic space from there. And if you're in any sort of recovery, it really actually works pretty well too, with steps 1, 2, 3, 4 through 9, and then 10 through 12. And kind of tamasic, rajasic, and sattvic. Because if you know the steps 1, 2, and 3 are just like, I don't fucking know, and what is it? You don't even want to think about and write and all this shit and fucking. And then 4 through 9 is like, and then 10 through 12 is like, hey, okay, all right, okay, no, all right. So that is the gunas. Those are the gunas. That which is the gunas, right? So basically the thing to think about is that we can't really skip over it. We just have to go through it. It's just the way it works. We have to enact that effort. We have to move through the fucking chaos, and we will inevitably in time come to that place of peace and serenity when we look inward for it and we do this work. In Lakesha Lakin, I am you, you are me. Namaste. Whoa. What? Too much?